everyone. Thanks for coming. I know we have a few more people. People are probably going to be joining us for a while, but I just am going to first let our interpreters introduce themselves and explain how the interpretation is going to work for the meeting, because they need to tell us how to do it. Yeah.
Buenas noches. Los organizadores de este evento tienen la firme determinación de facilitar la comunicación bilingüe en la reunión de hoy. Mi nombre es Mojde y mi cointérprete hoy es Ale y estamos representando a la Cooperativa de Justicia del Lenguaje Tilde. Usaremos la interpretación simultánea inglés-español y español-inglés. Good evening, everyone. The organizers of this event are firmly committed to facilitating bilingual communication in today's meeting. My name is Mojde and my co-interpreter is Ale, and we are representing the Tilde Language Justice Cooperative. We'll be providing English-Spanish and Spanish-English simultaneous interpretation. Si usted se unió a la reunión usando su teléfono, por favor asegúrese de entrar con el app de Zoom para poder acceder a la función de interpretación que ya se ha activado. Esta función no está disponible en los Chromebook. If you joined on your phone, please join on your Zoom app so that you can access the interpretation function, which has already been activated. Please note that this function is not available to Chromebook users. Si usted no es bilingüe, puede seleccionar su canal de idioma siguiendo las instrucciones que les voy a dar. Haciendo clic en el botón de interpretación si usa una computadora o en los tres puntitos si está conectado por teléfono. Seleccione español y luego picarle en finalizar. If you are not bilingual, please select your language channel by clicking on interpretation if you're using a computer, or the three dots if you're connected by phone. Select English and click done at the end. It is important to activate this option if you are not bilingual, as some participants may speak in Spanish, and then we'll interpret that simultaneously into English. Algunas pautas para crear un espacio multilingüe. A few guidelines for creating multilingual spaces. Por favor, no hablen muy rápido. Esto pasa especialmente cuando uno esté leyendo una presentación o emocionado, nervioso o al tener poco tiempo. También si no están hablando, por favor, pongan su audio en silencio. Please don't speak fast. This happens especially when reading a presentation or excited, nervous, or running out of time. And if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Por último, les vamos a recordar que por favor hablen una persona a la vez y en un idioma por oración. Lastly, we remind you to please speak one person at a time and with one language per sentence. Estos espacios se crean con el apoyo de todos. Por favor, comunique cualquier problema por la ventana del chat o habilitando su micrófono. Gracias por crear este espacio multilingüe. We create these spaces with everyone's support. Please communicate any issues by chat or turning on your volume. Thank you for creating this multilingual space. That's it.
Thank you. If y'all have any questions throughout this, just throw them in the chat. Anne and Ebony and Miss Flores are going to be on top of that. So just some announcements from the PTA first is that the advocacy committee is working on a wish list for getting cleaning supplies and whatnot. So anything that teachers need, the list is constantly being updated. But Anne will throw that Amazon wish list into the chat, and you can purchase things quite easily to go to the school to help support our teachers and staff. Also, as far as volunteering goes, parent volunteers won't be allowed into the building, but there is a volunteer medical corps group that's happening, and it's looking for medical volunteers as well as non-medical volunteers. Think about things such as temperature taking and helping with supplies and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, and I'll also put that information in the chat, you do need to be a registered volunteer with DPS. Just means you have to pass a background check through DPS. So she'll also put that link in there. And the last thing is, right now, I think we have until midnight tonight to purchase a Southwest t-shirt. The thing is with this Southwest t-shirt right now is that you can either go Carolina blue or you can go Duke blue. So if Carolina blue wins, that means that Mr. Ratoski has to wear Carolina blue for the day. And I feel like Miss Ebony might have some more input into what he has to do if his Duke blue loses. So do with that information what you will. We do have his t-shirt size already though. So that's it for me. Yeah, thanks for being here.
Sorry, one more announcement that we have our membership engagement meeting next Tuesday. I'm going to put the link to register for that as well. We're going to have a Seahawk parent who is an emotional wellness coach doing a workshop for us. She will be talking about how to just kind of keep our emotional health healthy in this virtual world. So I'll put the link to register for that also.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Good evening, Southwest. I am Mr. Ratoski. I'm your principal. For some of my kindergarten families, I don't even know you very well yet. So I look forward to meeting everyone. I wanted to first just thank our PTA Executive Board for putting this together. This was their idea as we move forward through this constantly changing time. And there was a need, and I appreciate them raising it up so that we could create this platform. Ms. Flores and I are going to do the best we can because the decisions are still to come and there's a lot of unanswered questions at this time. But I felt that I wanted you to have as much information as you could because I know that this time is not easy for any of us, but I appreciate our students and how hard they're working. Our teachers have been doing an amazing job with the hand that we've been dealt. And I appreciate them also, but parents, I know it's not easy for you guys also. So I just want everyone to realize that we acknowledge this is not easy for any of us, but at the same time, we will handle this situation just like we always do at Southwest, and we will stick together. We will work through problems together, and we will come up with solutions together. So I wanted to just share some information. There was a document that was submitted for questions. Ms. Flores and I answered all the questions that we had today, and that document is there. So if you haven't seen the answers to that document, please take a look at it. There were lots of great questions. We had answers for all of them, I believe, and I was a little nervous because we have a school board meeting tomorrow night. There may be some decisions made tomorrow night that could change things. As of right now, we are moving forward with preparing to open on March 15th. That's the plan that the board had approved, but there's also moving pieces with the Senate bill, with our school board meeting, and some things out of our control. You can see my background, it's keep calm. And this is a message I had sent to my staff. It's important to me that everyone is okay during this process, because like I said, it's not easy. So you will hopefully always see a calm nature from me. I have a great team of people around me that help make decisions. And I wanted to talk through the process so far. So when our school board made a decision for us to return in person, we had a plan moving forward, and our district has had a plan moving forward for if this day happened. At Southwest, I don't make any decisions by myself, although all decisions are made by me at the end. I have a tremendous team. I have great teachers. I have awesome parents, and I have great support from our community. So as we make these decisions, we can make informed decisions on what's best for all of us. So the survey that came out to families, that was the first piece of information that we needed. Excuse me. We had to have all of our students' preferences back so that we could start planning. So the district put out that survey, and it was due back by the 24th. I had asked, of course, you all to get it back to me a little bit earlier. And I'm so proud that we had 90-something% by the deadline I had asked for, which was amazing because that allowed us to start planning for what we were going to look at. And right now we have around 37% of our students have chose to come back in person, and the rest have chose to stay virtual. As I shared with my communication to all parents, if this is working, and working is a interesting term because this process I don't think is working for any of us, this pandemic. But if this learning situation is working for your child, I had asked you to go ahead and stay virtual, because the more families that stay virtual allow us to social distance and put together a strong plan for in-person learning. I also understand some families, even if this is working, needed for their children to come back, and that's also okay. I wanted all families to have their own input into what works best for them, and I hope that had happened. I feel good about the results that we have, and I have very much confidence in the plan that we have in place, and it's an evolving plan. So the first step was for you to fill that survey out. We've done that. Check. We have 100% of our families, which is another proud situation for me at Southwest, because some families have a hard time getting feedback from parents. And this is the second survey we have taken. And both times we had 100% of our families participate in that survey. So that's a great shout out to our teachers for having those relationships with their families and having the ability to get two-way communication back and forth from school to parent. So great job with that. The next step is, as a principal, I have to know which teachers I have that are going to be working out of the building and which ones will work possibly remote, teleworking with accommodations based off of their personal health. We have a process in Durham Public Schools through our Human Resources Department. All employees had the option to submit a request for an accommodation. And HR is actually in the process. Our Human Resources Department will work individually with each staff member to go through that accommodation to make a determination of what is, first, is there an accommodation need? And there has to be doctor's notes and support to see that you have that need for an accommodation. If there is, what's the appropriate accommodation? I don't have any say in that. That's handled through the Human Resource Department, and there's a very formal process that we follow. Once those decisions are made, they will then communicate to me which staff members have accommodations. And in certain situations, the Human Resource Department, the employee, and myself will kind of come up with what's the best accommodation so that the staff member is safe also. We're in that process now. I don't know exactly which staff are coming back in person or staying virtual, if that's the case. But like I mentioned before, at Southwest, we make all decisions together. I get input from all the folks that are involved. So I actually have been meeting. It has probably been 2 weeks ago, and I've met multiple times with each grade level and group of teachers. And we kind of started talking through this process because I want their needs to be met also. Your students' needs are important to me, but also my teachers' needs are important to me. So we worked through our our grade level teams to come up with what instructional delivery model are we going to use? And there's several choices. We could have a virtual model like we're in now. We could have classes that only have a virtual teacher and they all stay virtual. We could have models that have all students in person at Southwest with the parameters of the recommendations from the CDC and the health department. And they're still working through what are those specific guidelines going to be. And how many students can we have in that class? Are there restrictions? Or can we have 25? Which the answer is probably no to that right. So some of those decisions haven't been made definitely yet, but we have plans for both scenarios. The third model is what we're calling a blended model. And that model is going to be, we've worked with our teachers and our instructional team to kind of talk about what does that look like? What can a blended model of instruction look like? Because in the first two scenarios that I talked about, virtual and in person, I can't guarantee your child keeps the same teacher. Some scenarios in Durham Public Schools, we can't even guarantee that they'll keep a teacher from that grade level. And a lot of it has to do with the complexity of the human resources requests and which employees are actually coming back in person. The blended model is the model that would allow the teacher to keep all of their kids currently, work from the building if they don't have a human resource request to work telework, and they would have students in front of them. And I'm going to make up a scenario. If you were doing a blended model in a 5th grade class, and if that 5th grade teacher has 25 students, they actually have about 28 students, but we'll say 25 for easy math. If we had 10 students that said we want to come back in person and 15 decided they wanted to stay virtual, in that blended model, the teacher would have 10 students in her classroom. They would be masked and social distanced to meet the criteria that the health department and Durham Public Schools puts out, which we're still working on that. And then the teacher would also have 15 students remote that would connect in to the mini lesson. So while the teachers, basically what you all are doing right now, when the mini lesson's going on, all the kids are connected. And we've kind of created a schedule that allows flexibility for any of the 3 models. I'm in the process of working with teachers and grade levels, and I have given them the autonomy to decide which model works best. Ultimately, I will have to make a final decision for all teachers and what that looks like. But at the same time, their feedback is so important to me that I'm comfortable doing a combination of all 3 models. And I do have a grade level, possibly this year, that will do all 3 of the scenarios I talked about within the same grade level. As soon as final decisions are made, of course, we will communicate to you guys to let you know what that's going to look like. I have heard from lots of parents. I've spoke on the phone to a lot of you, and the consistent message seems to be, due to the time of the year, we have 11 weeks left after when this thing starts, possibly. Having the same teacher was pretty important to parents. It was also pretty important to teachers. And I think most importantly, an easier transition for students. We always have to think about the loss of academic time, the transitions that we put on our children as we go through this process. So we want to be as informed as we can in making those decisions. I hope to have, of course, there's a board meeting tomorrow night, so there'll be information I'm sure our district will make decisions on tomorrow night. I have been meeting today and tomorrow with our teacher groups, we call them PLCs, and we will make some final decisions. 2 of my grade levels have come to a conclusion, and I've made a decision, and I've given them permission to communicate to families. Don't know if they have yet, because technically they don't have to yet, but my 4th and 5th grade teams both know which model they're going with. So they will be communicating with you all soon to kind of let you know what that looks like, if they haven't already done it. As soon as we can make final decisions for kindergarten 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then I have to keep dual language in a separate bubble because only a certain teacher can teach dual language. So as soon as we make decisions for those 5 groups, which will be this week, I need to finish the meetings tomorrow. With the teacher groups, I also need to hear what final decisions are made at the board meeting Tuesday night. And then I will be able to start putting some finishing touches on the plans that we have moving forward. Due to the survey results and only having 37% of our students coming back in person, this feels very manageable, regardless of what decisions made at the board meeting tomorrow night. And I can let you know that Ms. Flores and I and our leadership teams with our teachers, we have about 90% of our plan done. We have our master schedule done. It's all just waiting on tomorrow night's board meeting, and we will follow a process. So there's going to be a document that I release to the teachers. It's kind of the guide for how we're going to do this. What are the guidelines set by the district? What are the decisions that I cannot make that the superintendent has made? And then there's a lot of decisions on this document that me as a principal get to make at the school level. And, you know, I talked about that process. It's not really just me, it's our team at Southwest. So our district has done a really nice job of allowing school level decisions to be made based off what's best for our school. And I think that was very wise for them to do that. So I feel good about the plan that's coming out. The timing, of course, is interesting. I don't know that there is a right decision as we move through this. And like I said, it's been hard for everybody. The second document that will come out, and that'll be the parent guide. So there will be a separate document that we're creating that will come out to the parents also, that will give you all the details about what does school look like? What does the carpool drop off look like? What does bus drop off look like? What does dismissal and lunch and recess? And, you know, I still have millions of questions about what March 15th looks like. And I know you all do too, but I wanted to make sure that we had at least an opportunity for you guys to be a part of hearing the process. We've been remote the whole year. Our building is physically ready. The classes are clean. There's decals in the hallways to mark social distancing. There will be signage around about the processes when we return. Teachers have not been working from the building. I do have probably 10 or so, because they can come to the building, who've been working out of the building. So it's not empty. They really have the flexibility to do either one. So there have been some teachers, some classes are more ready than others. Once we are a go for the 15th, and right now we are, if that date changes, the only thing that will change is the timeline for when we take care of what we need to do as classroom teachers. Our teachers will have 2 asynchronous days to be able to work on their classrooms. But those of you who know elementary teachers, they work hard. They work in the evenings, they work on the weekends. And I don't know if it's type A personalities or what, but some of my folks have their rooms ready now, and we don't even know what the plan is yet. So we will make sure to support teachers also to be prepared for returning. Ms. Flores, did I leave anything out?
No, we do have 2 follow-up questions in the chat. I'm not going to do them in order because one feels directed to follow talked about, and then we'll start with that one. So the first one is, and I think you touched on this a little bit. How do the teachers feel about managing a blended environment? And then will they be guaranteed an IA or support for technical issues?
Good question. So I don't want to speak for how the teachers feel about the blended model because that's their feelings, but I will tell you that we have talked through this. We have worked through this, and my goal is to try to accommodate every teacher's decision. My 4th and 5th grade team, they all got what they wanted. They asked for this model, and we were able to accommodate them. The only way a teacher won't get the model that they prefer is staffing. You know, if I have a teacher who has to teach virtually, there could make, then I have to decide what do I do with the students in that class that want to come back to the building. And we may, I hinted about some of the accommodations that teachers will work through human resources with. Once we know final decisions, we'll be able to work through that. So, it's important to me that just like you had say in virtual or in person, it's really important for me that my staff feel comfortable and that they feel safe. And so that's kind of the process we have gone through. I am hoping to be able to give each teacher what they want. And just to kind of expand upon that a little bit, I talked about the formal process with human resources. I also have already committed to my staff to try to work with them to figure out, even if they're not formally approved due to a medical situation, if they're not comfortable with something, I'm working one-on-one with those teachers to come up with accommodations or situations so that they can feel comfortable in their teaching. Ms. Flores, what was the second part of that question?
Well, the next question has to do with after reading the document, will kids who have to quarantine or have to be absent for other reasons be able to switch to virtual learning during that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. We will continue to answer questions from the document as we go throughout this process, and we will continue to leave that as a public document for you guys to see. There are some scenarios that we have to work through and we're not sure yet on what does that look like. Our Durham Public Schools is partnering with the Durham Health Department. And, we've already been doing this at learning centers. Now, the learning centers were not instructional like we will be, but the learning centers had kids, they had students where scenarios came up, and that communication will come from Durham Public Schools in conjunction with the health department to principals, and then we will communicate that out to families. The guidance document that parents will get also is going to have some of that information in it. So we're still finalizing some of those details, but that will come out in the guidance document. Other questions, Ms. Flores, that were in the chat that we missed?
Well, I was, so one question, I was just actually answering it, was about additional questions. And I was just letting them know that if there are additional questions, they could email them directly to the PTA or to you. Then if it's not already addressed in the document, that would be a way for us to get that information. One question, I'm going to try to go back up, is about the vaccinations. I know the document said you cannot require teachers to get vaccinated, but is there a point when all teachers who want to be vaccinated will be? I assume that March 15th, especially since you need to add 2 weeks to that. It sounds like we are well on our way, though.
Yes, great question. So the school board, of course, sets the start date, and they are taking all that into consideration, I believe, as we go and make final decisions. I can tell you that since the vaccinations opened up to educators on the 24th, Durham has done a really good job of creating opportunities with our health department, and they came up with priority groups, and they have been working through that process. Durham Public Schools, as of this point, will not require teachers to have the vaccine as part of your right to work, so to speak. It is a teacher's choice at this point for that process. And I'm really excited about this because when I've talked to teachers, that was their biggest concern. You know, if I had that extra layer of protection, you know, because we love kids. We went into teaching to be around kids and to educate children in person, not virtually. So they all want to come back. And even ones that I know have submitted accommodation requests with human resources based off of their medical history, even some of those folks have shared with me that if I can have the vaccine and get both doses, I'm coming back. You know, so that was just powerful to hear a teacher have that kind of passion. So I have worked really hard at trying to go above and beyond to get our staff vaccinated. There have been lots of good information. Social media can be tricky on both sides. Sometimes there's good information, sometimes not so much good information, but I kind of funneled through some of the resources from social media in addition to just information that I was able to gather. And I was able to send out an email on some tricks of the trade on how staff can get vaccinated and get appointments, because it was hard at the beginning. I am very pleased to say I have had my first shot. Ms. Flores has had her first shot, and lots of my teachers have had their first shot. Today, our superintendent sent an email to principals, and their charge was to try to have all elementary teachers who want a vaccine to have their first shot by Friday. And they sent a link where they could communicate directly with the Durham Health Department and they could schedule that appointment. I feel at Southwest, we were well on our way to taking care of that ourselves, like we do. I call it the Southwest way. We always need support and guidance, but we're very self-sufficient and we're always going to do a great job. So I don't know the number, and it's a confidential thing between teachers and whether or not they tell anybody if they've gotten their vaccine, but I can tell you everybody who wants a vaccine will have their first shot by Friday. Now you have to play the numbers out. So if it's Pfizer, then it's a 3-week window. If it's Moderna, it's a 4-week window. Johnson & Johnson just got approved and will start to roll out soon. And then after you have your second dose, you have to wait that 2 weeks before you have full, I don't know if immunity is the correct term, but I'm going to call it immunity. So the timing is the tricky part. But also a lot of us feel, and I'm going to speak for myself, I don't want to speak for my staff. If I have both vaccine shots, I feel so much more protected and comfortable. But me personally, if I follow the guidelines from the health department and the CDC, just like I have since March, I feel like I can do things to protect myself also. So I think the teachers are getting to a better place of being ready and returning to school, because the vaccine effort really seems like it has picked up in the last week or so. And I think by the time, hopefully, depending on what happens with Senate Bill 37, and the timing of if we're forced to come back, or depending on whatever decision our board makes tomorrow night, the tone of the previous board meeting, if you watched it, they were talking about possibly pushing our date back a little bit to allow more teachers to be vaccinated. So we'll see if they continue along those lines and what final decisions are made. Other questions, Ms. Flores?
The last question that I had from the chat was related to would there be an orientation for new families and students?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I saw that actually go across the chat, and I've been trying to work with our family that had that question. That's something that is kind of tricky. It'll depend on timing. We have new families that are coming to Durham Public Schools, to Southwest, who could be in the older grades, but we also have a whole set of kindergartners who've never been to Southwest. And normally we have staggered entry, we have time to do that process. I'm not sure that would be up to the superintendent and the board to kind of make those decisions on the timing of it. The ideal scenario would be, yes, we would love to do that. I just don't, a final decision has not been made yet on, can we do that? Do we have the time? Is it safe? What does that process look like? So Ms. Flores, if you'll kind of make a note of, that's one that we still need to follow up once we have a final decision, but I definitely hear you. And I hear the 57 kindergartners that are returning to school for the first time in March or April, which is just mind blowing, that 5 or 6 year old has never seen our building. Some of you all have never been inside our building. And that kind of breaks my heart, because when we return, it won't be like it is normally. The rest of this school year, we won't have visitors in the building. We won't be able to walk our students to the classroom like we're accustomed to at Southwest. We'll follow the guidelines that are set out. But at the same time, we look forward to the day, hopefully next school year, where we can do things the way we normally do at Southwest. Tori, was there another question that popped up?
Just the opportunity to maybe clarify. I believe this may be slightly addressed, but not in detail, about Wednesdays. Is there any instruction provided, or is it completely remote and focused on Wellness Wednesday, and the responsibility of the parents? Right now, we have a morning meeting synchronously with our teachers before heading off on our own. Is that still happening?
Yeah, one of the things that we wanted to try to accommodate for this school year, because of the timing of where we are in the school year, is to try to keep as many things similar as we could. The district made the decision that we're going to have a 4-day school week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wellness Wednesdays will continue the way it is now. No students in the building. We will still have morning meetings. Southwest will do Wellness Wednesdays exactly like it is now. So there could be new opportunities if staff members come up with those opportunities, but it'll be the exact same that we're doing right now.
I would also just piggyback on that is also an opportunity for attendance purposes. So I think at that morning meeting, our teachers are logging in their attendance for the day for Wellness Wednesday.
And I also want families to know that this will not be the only town hall. I anticipate I will do as many as we need, and we'll have to see what decisions are made, and if there's a greater need to do these. We will also, as soon as we can finalize some of these documents, this is not secrets. I don't have secrets at Southwest. I have 2 plans, one for the teachers, one for the families. They're both 90% complete. As soon as they hit 100%, they will be sent out to everybody, so that we can prepare and plan. I also want you guys to know, some of you all I've spoke to on, and I don't mind that at all. If you have questions, if you're uneasy, if you're not sure about something, of course, your teacher is a great resource, that direct communication, but also know that Ms. Flores and I are always willing to have those conversations. This is a challenging time for all of us, and I don't want you to have to go through this alone. If you're not sure, if you need guidance, if you need information, email me. That's the easiest thing. I tag team this effort with Ms. Flores, but I would ask, and I think I saw my email go through the chat, send me an email with your concern or your question or your thoughts. But if you would please also add your cell phone number or a phone number where I can contact you. Relationships are important to me. I think we can accomplish so much more through a conversation than a text or an email. So I will probably not respond to your email, but I will call you. So if you have questions, please let me know. We will. Tori, anything else that we have not covered? Is there another one?
We do. We have 2 more. One is a and I believe the PTA may have addressed this earlier, so we had a couple of parents that joined later, was just asking about the need for donations of hand sanitizer and cleaning supplies. And so we may want to add that link to the chat. So that was the PTA leadership has worked on a resource to kind of let families know who want to help with that. But I also would add, if that's okay, Mr. Rutowski, that our district is really supporting the supplies of PPE in our buildings. And we have already ordered additional masks, disposable and cloth. We've ordered the cleaning supplies, like extra cleaning supplies and hand sanitizer and everything that face shields, everything that we might need for our students and staff to be safe. We have ordered that. So the next question, Mr. Rutowski, and I'm trying to make sure I don't miss them, so I am recording them here, is related to, you briefly touched on dual language earlier. Do we have a plan for what that would look like in dual language, especially in the upper grades where there is only one teacher who is teaching in that grade level?
Yeah, we addressed that, I think, in our the questioning document, but I will reiterate a little bit of it to make sure that you guys hear it from me. All dual language students will stick with a dual language teacher. You know, we have unique situation in kindergarten and first grade where we have 2 classrooms. So we have a little more flexibility to be creative. Second, third, and fourth, I only have 1 classroom teacher who teaches those students, but I also have interventionists and a dual language coordinator and teacher assistants that are bilingual that also support us and support our program. So we will work with a blended model, most likely. I don't want to commit to because we haven't made final decisions, but within dual language, it'll be most likely a blended model with support from some of the other folks that are bilingual and that are teachers at Southwest. I can't be specific because if you remember, I talked about each teacher gets to have the input in what their preference is. And we look at the number of the students, how many are coming in person and how many want virtual. And then we have the teachers, what do they want? And then we come up with what's the best plan to meet the needs of our students. I feel really good about the decisions and the direction as a group, because they're a separate group, so to speak, with some of the scenarios that we have to work through. And then hopefully after Wednesday, we will have final decisions on all grade levels.
Mr. Rutowski, the last thing that I have in there is something that a parent is curious about. So I know that there is so much to consider. I've heard there will be temps taken. Curious about that, given it's not typically recommended and could be not only time consuming, but open a can of worms.
Yeah, so we will follow the guidelines that the health department has put out in conjunction with Durham Public Schools. All students will have temperatures taken when they arrive, and Durham Public Schools will put out that formal process. Families will have to sign an attestation sheet about the 3 questions that you'll have to answer for your student. Then when students arrive, the carpool circle, we're going to have all car riders come through the carpool circle. Walkers and any other folks, we're going to ask as many possible come through the carpool circle because we'll take temperatures right at the car. If the student passes the temperature screening, they'll then get out and they'll go into the building. If the student doesn't pass the initial screening, the family will have a 5-minute wait if they would like to, because sometimes if a student has a hat or if the heat is blowing onto a student, it could give us a false reading. So if a family decided they wanted to take that 5 minutes, they would pull around and then they would come back into the carpool circle for their temperature check. all bus riders. There'll be a formal process that Durham Public School has before students get on the bus. The families will have to sign that same form, and they will have temperature checks before they get on the school bus by the bus drivers. When they arrive to Southwest, we will actually have them, they all come through the bus lot entrance, and they will all have their temperatures checked again. And then we'll kind of go through that process. So we will follow the guidelines. You know, this is that area of, I'm not a medical person. None of my staff are, but we have great people through our health department, our school nurses that are giving us this guidance and setting up these parameters. Looking at the chat, Ms. Flores, did I miss anything? Are there any other questions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so families, I will, you know, this is just the way that I do things at Southwest. When I have a faculty meeting, when I have a PLC meeting, I'm always the last one off the call. So I am going to stick around. I am formally done with the presentation, so to speak, but also know that this is not the last time you'll hear from me. There will be formal documentation once our plan's done that we will send out to families. I assume once some final decisions are made, if you guys have a need for another town hall, just communicate with PTA, and I will be happy to do as many as we need. But I also would encourage you to email me if you have questions or concerns. Looks like Miss Ebony, yeah, that's a good point. We can actually provide an update next week at our PTA meeting. So please come to that PTA meeting and we'll have an update. I'm going to stick around. If you have a question, if you'll raise your hand, if we haven't already taken care of it. Otherwise, I will see you all soon, and I appreciate you all's support. And if you need anything, just let me know. Thank you to the staff members who showed up tonight too. This was not required by any means, but I know you're just as curious about everything as we all are. So if you're not a PTA member, please consider joining. I should have threw that plug in earlier before some people got off, right? And I love seeing the students too. So for future reference, anytime your kids are around, tell them to pop in, at least pop their head on the screen and wave. I see Miss Bostic. She's talking to somebody. Yes, I see kids. I do that to my staff constantly. We don't get to, I miss you guys. I can't wait till we can all be back in person. So it's great to see you. Is there anybody on the, I can't see everybody. Oh, I see, yes. I'm gonna flip to page 2 because there's still so many that we have multiple pages. I hope families, you all are doing well. I know this is challenging. Hey, Patrick, I see you. A past student, yes.
Hey, everybody.
Look how big he's getting, Miss Clemens.
Yes, I know he's almost as tall as I am.
Oh, geez, I love it. I love it. Look at all these
All
students.
right, have a good night, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Families also, if there's questions you have and you don't want to ask in front of the group, just email me and give me your cell phone number and I will call you tomorrow. I've been fairly good about, that's one thing I pride myself on, is trying to have great communication, because communication's hard. But I will, as many of you know, I will call you from my cell phone. It's kind of, other principals think I'm crazy letting y'all have my cell phone number, but I don't mind. I mean, you guys are why I'm here. Your kids are why I'm here. And I just want to make sure that you have what you need. Any other questions? Carla, I don't get to see the baby this time. Where's the baby?
She just knocked out.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
you just missed
do
her. She
not-
was here earlier.
Oh, was she? I just couldn't see her. There were too many people on the screen. I
Yes,
couldn't see everybody.
Hola Verónica, hola Ivonne.
I appreciate the interpreters too. Thank you all for doing this. I don't know how y'all do it. It's not easy. I can't imagine it is, but you make it seem so effortless. So thank you all for doing the interpretation. I hope I was not too excited and talked too fast. Good feedback. Yes. Too shy to be on camera. Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording from my end because I
Oh
think
yeah, I
we're-
guess now it's just a Ratoski
pretty
show. I
good.
just love seeing the kids.
I mean, we
All
can
right.
keep recording your show, but
No, I'm good. My staff teases me because I always